Go ahead.
Can I ask one kind of dumb question? You speak in different places and see groups. This group here is pretty well age mixed. Do you see any interest from young people? Because really, this is, you do?
In fact, to be real honest with you, I have spoken all the way from California to New York City and all the way from Canada to Costa Rica. I traveled the country for a long time. I don't anymore. I don't try to speak very often anymore. As you can tell, I'm not quite as sharp. And my mind isn't quite as good as it used to be. I hate to say that, but I used to have a particular really talent. I could give a speech and I could run off on a rabbit trail someplace, change the subject, and I could come back to the exact same word every time, and I can't do that anymore. I'm getting a little better that I'm speaking a little more here lately. And I've had people comment they never seen anybody in the world that could do that quite that well. I mean, I could just run off totally different and come back just like I'd never left to the exact same word. But I can't do that anymore. And the biggest comments I've always had was, how can that be true? How can what you say be true? If it was really true, I surely would have heard it someplace else. Or they'd say, well, you're crazy because you can't do paper money, you got to use gold. I've never lived in my life when we use anything but paper, and it works. Have anybody noticed you can buy things with that stuff? Everybody noticed you seem to buy real good with it, just flipping card through a slot, can't you? So it clearly works. The only reason it doesn't work is because nobody stopped to think that gold represented wealth and the paper represented debt. Let's change it the way around, and we'll have the paper represent the wealth and the gold represent the debt. I got all the gold and I'm only going to loan it to you for money, and you got to pay me interest on it. How long do you think before I'll have you all slaves on that too? Because if you don't have a gold mine, I won't let you. I mean, I'll make it illegal. You can't. Man, they made it illegal to go print money, didn't they? Well, I can make it illegal just easy. Now you can't mine gold either, so I'm the only one. Well, if I'm only loaned it out at interest, you're going to have the same problem. You can't ever get enough gold to pay me back except taking it from somebody else. If you got $1 million and no debt, somebody else has got to have $1 million and not have the $1 million and have the debt. A lot of times it's the state or federal government. Sometimes it's your next door neighbor. People don't think about that, but this is all basic logic and common sense. And it all started not because I had a degree in economics, because I had a degree in hard knocks and I wanted to know why in the heck the knocks were so hard. My whole thing has come from a business experience. Real life business experience. And then I started asking why. I didn't go say, just teach me what you know and I'll believe it. It's some college. I said, no, I've lived this and I want to know some answers to just why. So I wrote what I thought was pretty credible places. The United States Trade, the Library of Congress. You think a guy that's worked for the United States Trade, an attorney for 20 years that I know of for a fact, wouldn't know a little bit about how the system works? This is just another story, but it's off point, but it's on point. A guy called me up one day, and we got in there, and he said, man, Byron, you just got it wrong. I said, where do you get yours? Well, I got it from Cleo Scouts out and thinking, you're wrong. I said, well, I don't think so. I think he's wrong. Oh, he was mad. He hung up, he was so mad at me. But he was a pretty decent guy. And he was so mad, the next day he called up the Treasury and he asked them. He called and he spent all day on the phone until they got a hold of the head guy that runs the Bureau of Printing and Engraving. And he told me too, and I went down there and watched him print the money. They start with a big bowl of sheet of cotton linen, and they run it through, and it's out there all set up and billed, cut up and stacked on a pallet. And he told him just exactly what I'd said, because I'd seen it. And then he said, well, what happened to the money after that? And the guy said, well, I don't know, I don't do that. And he called me up the day after that, and he said, well, Byron, I just called you up to tell you that you were right. I spent all day checking this out the next day, and I called everybody I could call down in Washington, D.C., and I found out you were exactly right. Well, he got told the same thing I got told. In that book I was going through, I have letters in the front to me, and in the back, 10 years later, my friend Greg Soderberg wrote almost the same letters and got the same exact answers. That hadn't changed in 10 years, so it must be the same thing they're telling us. Why would you tell us something that obviously, if you think about the consequences, will kill us in the end if it wasn't true? If he is, what the heck have we got him down to Washington for? Why don't we not re-elect him? We could get rid of him. But everybody thinks my guy is so good, but it's the other guy that's so bad. Well, they must all be bad, it wouldn't cost going.
Getting back to Larry's question.
Oh, Larry, I'm sorry.
Do you ever speak to young people?
Not a whole lot. I did actually speak to actually address that question. Years ago, I was invited to speak to the young Republicans down at the University of Minnesota. They all said I was crazy because that wasn't what the economic professor said. But now, on the other hand, I have spoken to 2 college economic classes. First one was in New Jersey. And I got up there, and the guy that invited me, a young student there, he said, I'd like to have you come. I've lined it all out. Would you come speak to my economic class? I worked it all out, and I said, yes, I would, and he did. He said, how do you want to do it? And I said, well, just send me your economics book. And so he did, and right in there, it clearly said that the banks create the money. So I got down there, and I got up on the podium like this, and they introduced me, and there was, I don't know, probably 100 people in the room and 7 professors. And I started out, I picked up their book and read right out of the economic book. And one of the professors went, oh, God, what did we get here? And I said, now I've showed you and read out of the book what they teach you. Now I'm going to teach you what they don't teach you. And I tell you could hear a pin drop. And after they was done, I only got 2 questions. And one of them was the professor. He said, give me a little bit more how you'd solve the problem. And he wrote back to me later and he said, Byron, you stirred that whole campus up for 3 weeks. They just couldn't talk about nothing else but that strange speech they had over there in economics that day. I was invited to speak up north and up by Fridley someplace to an economic college. A friend that I knew had a kid working with him, was going to taking classes there, and he worked around to have me speech. And I've also been invited to speak to a high school economic class sometime in the future here. And it was the same thing happened there. They kind of laughed at me and they said, you're crazy, because I was telling the young guy. I kind of went through, I had to ask how the money switched, and I went through it. And pretty quick, they got pretty quiet. And then I left, and the guy came out a while later to tell me goodbye, and he said, man, Byron, did you stir up a hornet's nest in there? They're asking that professor questions so fast he can't answer them. Because, see, I have a young guy I worked with for a while, and actually 3 young execs, and one says, yeah, you're exactly right, but it's not bothering me, I'm doing good at it, I'm happy. The other one, he told me, well, Byron, you've got to be right, but I just can't accept it, because if I accept you're right, I have to admit that I wasn't told the truth in college, and I just can't bring myself to do that. And see, we've got to get over that, because we've got to understand that all words are used for 3 purposes: entertain you, inform you, or deceive you. And I have tried my best not to deceive anybody. I hope to entertain you just a little. I think I did. I think I got a laugh or 2. And I got this all from personal study, because I wanted to know how you could become a millionaire and not get any excess cash. How could it all be on paper and none of it could be stored away in the vault someplace? And again, thank you so very much.